Junior Girl Scouts. I'm glad that you guys are able to join me today. We're going to be working on our Junior Gardener badge. So we have some cool garden designs we're going to check out. I'm going to show you some of the little plants I have just in my house, and we'll do some experiments using some seeds too. So it should be a lot of fun. Hopefully you had some time to get some of the supplies together. If you didn't, perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. You can always go back and watch this video later and you can follow along then. But some really fun stuff, so hopefully you guys enjoy earning this badge. This is part 1, so that means that there will be other parts to this. So it'll be the following next 2 Wednesdays we'll meet again. That way we can cover everything and take our time and not rush through it and really enjoy earning our gardener badge. I will be kind of checking the comments, so if you guys want to say anything, go for it. I'm going to try to respond to you guys the best I can. Just remember that there is a delay in the video, so if I keep going, you're like, why isn't she answering my question? That is why. So just remember there's a short little delay. I'm going to actually pull this video up on my other screen. That's a little bit bigger and easier for me to comment on as well. So we will be all set. So to kind of start off, for all you Girl Scouts and even parents, if you guys are joining too or anybody else is joining, I would like you to let me know what your favorite flower is, and then either your favorite fruit or vegetable. So I know that can be kind of tough because there's so many different ones to choose from. But I want you to really think about what is that one flower that you are drawn to, kind of like a bee. So you're drawn to that flower, and when you see it, you got to stop and look at it, maybe smell it, maybe take a picture of it. So think about what your favorite flower is, and then comment also what your favorite fruit or vegetable is. You can also say if you want to share where you're from. That way I can kind of see who is in our group and where you're from, because that's kind of fun to see sometimes. We occasionally have some people from different states join us, which is really awesome. But we have a lot of our local girls too, so it's always nice. So say hey. So looks like we have Mallory. Hi Mallory. And Megan, well I guess it'd be Mallory, her favorite flowers are sunflowers and her favorite fruit are strawberries. I love those too. And you're from Morton. Awesome, so you're local. I love sunflowers. I kind of wish I could grow them, but I don't know. I feel like I need more of an open space to do that. That way they can get humongous. And we have somebody that lives not far from us. They always plant sunflowers in front of their house, and it kind of creates a fence for the front of their house, which is really cool to see. And I love it because it also feeds the birds eventually too, or the squirrels. We have a lot of squirrels here, and I'm sure they enjoy those sunflower seeds. Okay, so we have a few more people. Looks like they're joining us too, so we'll have a nice little group with us today. I'm excited to see that. Okay, so we're going to kind of start off with some different designs. So sometimes we don't pay attention to how our gardens are laid out. So I'm hoping this encourages you or inspires you to try doing that when you're out and about. So just think about it. If you're out for a walk with your family in your neighborhood, really pay attention to people's gardens. Now, when we say gardens, that doesn't mean it has to be a fruit and vegetable garden. This can be a flower garden too. Sometimes when you say the word garden, people associate it with the vegetable gardens, but our flowers, those are gardens too. So I kind of just went online to get some inspiration, because I really can't just walk around my neighborhood and do a live, because I don't know if I would have the connectivity to do that. But I'm probably going to snap some pictures of some of the people that are around my house and the gardens that they have. We actually have somebody that has won an award for their front yard. It's really cool, and I've been kind of waiting for it to fill in a little bit more before taking a picture and sharing with you guys, because it just doesn't do it justice right now, but probably in a couple weeks it'll look really cool. So I'll do that eventually. And also my neighbors, I'm super jealous of them because they have a really manicured garden and I do not. So these are just a few little gardens that I saw. So this one, it's not like super busy. It's got some stones in it too, so some landscaping with it, with some shrubs and some low-laying flowers on it. So I thought that was a really cool and simple design. And I really like the colors too. This one is kind of a funky little design because it's got that little twirl there. So not a ton of actual plants, but a lot of landscaping work happened here with all the stones and the pebbles with the different shades of colors. But they did add plants onto it as well. So I just thought that was kind of a cool, kind of whimsical design that they came up with. This one has a lot of different landscaping features. So you can see that it does have a water feature with theirs, and then the path was really cool too. And they also have a seating area too. So they don't have a lot of blooming plants, but it also could be the time of the year. Maybe they're not all blooming right now, but they do have a lot of hostas. Hostas are really great shade-loving plants. So if you have a lot of trees in your backyard and your yard just doesn't see a lot of sun, hostas really are the way to go. So a pretty cool plant to have. And I actually have them because we have some really shaded areas and they grow really well and they keep getting bigger each year. So I just thought that was a pretty cool design there. This one, maybe you have a landscape like this. So lots of shrubs, again, some hostas, there's some lilies in there too, and another shady area. So it does, unfortunately, when you have a lot of shade, you can't always have those big, bright, vibrant blooms. Sometimes it's more greenery because there's not a ton of plants that love shade, but there are some. So things like bleeding hearts. I love bleeding hearts. It's kind of more of a bush than like a small plant. And another cool thing about bleeding heart is that it's deer resistant. So the deer won't eat it. So if you have deer in your backyard, plant some blooming hearts because for some reason they just don't like them. And then this one was just kind of a simple one with some cool shapes, and you can tell this spot gets a lot of sun. So these are some sun-loving plants here with some nice bright colors. I love that pop of yellow there, and then they have the pinks and the purples too. So with your garden, you can kind of choose what colors you want. So if you are a big fan of yellow, maybe you plant a lot of yellow. If you like a mixture of colors, go for it. Go crazy because it is your garden and you're the one that's got to like it. So don't always just go by what people say you should plant. Plant what you want to plant. That's what I do. Now these are some examples of, this is kind of a mixture of vegetables and flowers. There are some flowers that work really well for repelling pests. Marigolds, that's a big one. It really does help repel a lot of pests. So sometimes people will plant that around their garden. So this garden is a little bit of a raised garden because it does have that border there and the soil's up a little bit higher. And it looks like they have a nice little variety of vegetables kind of in the middle, and then they have their flowers on the outside of it. So they have some tomatoes and different types of lettuce and possibly cabbage right there, or kale, one of those. So even your gardens can look really nice too. So it doesn't just have to be where you dig up the soil and you plant stuff. You can do raised beds. They do really well. It tends to be a little bit easier to maintain those, especially when it comes to weeds. Nobody likes to spend their day out there pulling weeds. This makes it a little bit easier. And if you're a parent, a little bit easier on your back sometimes when it comes to doing things like weeding. So that is a really cool vegetable garden that somebody designed. And when you design these, you have to think about the plants that you plant too. And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit here shortly. And then this is just another example. So if you're limited on space, this person planted right against their fence line. That way it wasn't right in the middle of their yard, it was on the edge, so it wouldn't take up as much space for other activities in your yard. also, you don't have to necessarily plant things in the ground. You can do container planting too. So these are just a few examples of some container planting. I tend to do quite a bit of this because the spots that get the most sun really don't have places to actually plant things sometimes. And I like to brighten up my house a little bit because it's a white house. I do have blue shutters and mailbox and stuff, but it's nice to have pops of color up front. So these are some examples of some planters that you could possibly do. And what I like about these is that they have the three important factors. They have the thrillers, the fillers, and the spillers. So the thrillers are the things that kind of stick up more. So they're usually taller than everything else, and they kind of stand out. So it's kind of like the showpiece. And then you have your fillers, and that's the stuff at the base of your thrillers, and they fill up the container. And then last, you have your spillers, and these are the plants that are going to flow majestically over the edge of your planter. So I think this is a really cool look to have. And I usually try to create some planters in front of my house that look like this. Well, not as good as this because they did an amazing job, but up to my standards, I guess. Another example, so you have your thriller, your fillers, and then your spillers. All important to have a well-balanced planter. And there's one more. And this one has the sweet potato vine. I love sweet potato vine. And then the wave petunias. So they're not your typical petunias, usually those you'd use as a filler, but the wave ones actually spread out and they'll cascade, so they're the wave petunias, which I love. Well, we have Olivia with her mom from Urbana, and they said they have no favorite plant. Hopefully that changes after ending this batch. Everybody needs a favorite plant. And then also, so that was like an outside container. You can also do indoor containers too, so you can have an indoor garden. And something that's really trendy right now are the succulents. So succulents do really well inside because they like warm temperatures. They don't always require a lot of extra work. They don't need a ton of water. So it's one that you can have in your house and then you occasionally just have to water it. Now, like outside, when they're in the elements, the soil's going to dry up a lot faster. You're going to be out there watering a lot more, especially if it's not raining outside. So some really cool succulent designs. Here's another one here. It's kind of like it's really cool, like bowl, and they have some stoning and then all the variety of succulents in it. So I think that is a really cool design there. So some great inspiration out there. So when you're thinking about the garden you're going to plant, which is part of the batch, you need to plant some kind of garden. You can go online and look for some inspiration. You can walk around your neighborhood and get some ideas. There's lots of stuff out there. So you're bound to find something. It can be outdoors or it can be indoors, whatever works for you and your family. I know that sometimes we don't necessarily have the space outdoors, but there are lots of options. Even if you want to do vegetables, you don't have to have a big garden to do that. You can do containers. So if you just have a big pot, you can plant things like tomatoes and squash and stuff in there too. So there's lots of opportunities to grow something. So you can't say, well, I don't have a space, I can't make a garden. You can make a garden anywhere, even if it's in one pot. You're set. Now, when it comes to choosing what you're going to put in your garden, you really have to think about it. So you have to decide where that garden is going to be. Is it going to be inside? Is it going to be outside? And then if it's outside, is it going to be in full sun, part sun, or shade? That's all really important because if you pick a plant that needs a lot of sun and you plant it somewhere where it's shady, it's not going to thrive. It's not going to grow very well and it might not even live. So it's really important to pay attention to that. So, when you are picking your plants, make sure that you're looking at either the seed pack or the little tag on the plant. And that's going to let you know what kind of environment it needs to be in. So I'm just going to show you this bean packet. So this is the beans that I chose to do for our experiment that we're going to do today. So with this, right up front, it lets you know what kind of plant it is, a bean. So bean garden and what type. This is a bush bean. There are also pole beans too. I decided to do a bush style because I think it would be easier for me to set up. And I tend to like these better, and it's more of a challenge to pick them. If you do a pole bean, it's a little bit easier to actually get to the bean. So it's really up to you. There's lots of varieties out there, and it's going to let you know what variety it actually is. This also lets you know it's a vegetable. In case you're questioning what a bean is, it is a vegetable. Go. And then they usually have some kind of picture of the item too, so you have a better idea. A lot of people are visual, so they need a picture of what they're buying. And this one, it has the picture there too. You can see I have some flower seeds too. It's going to have it. Because sometimes, especially with flowers, you might not remember what the flower is called, but if you see the picture, you know that's what you need. Okay, and then on the back side, there's going to be lots more info on there too. It has a map on here. Most of them do. I'm actually going to show you a little bit different one. That's going to be bigger and easier for you guys to see. There we go. This is from a seed pack of chives. Okay, so the map here is going to let you know when to plant it. And that's really important because you don't want to plant things too early and have it out there and then a frost comes along and kills your plant. And you just wasted all that time and money trying to get the seed to grow, and it ends up dying because of the frost. So you will look at this map. So if we look at this map here in Illinois for this one, we are in the green section. So this one says to plant through April through June. So it does give you a pretty large range of when you should plant. If you are starting plant seeds inside, I definitely say that you can start it in April. But some you want to hold off, especially if it's a mature plant. You don't want to go out and put it outside in the ground too early. I usually say Mother's Day. After that, usually we're not at risk of a frost or a freeze. It was really close this year because we had a freeze like 2 days, I think, before Mother's Day. So a lot of people had to go and like cover their plants. They had to bring some of their planters inside so that those plants would actually be alive the next day. So that's going to have that information on there too. This one, I love how it has the infographics to help you know. So this one, it's saying it needs to be in full sun. So it has a full sun there. If it was shade or part shade, they might have half of it dark, the rest of it would be yellow. Water, sometimes they let you know how much moisture they actually need. So is it a drought tolerant one or non-drought tolerant? This one's kind of moderate right in the middle. It's going to let you know how far to plant that seed down. So this one, you only planted 1/8 of an inch into the soil. And then the spacing between each plant is, let me see, is 12 inches. So a foot between each plant. And then harvest, they're saying 75-day harvest. So 75 days after you plant it, you should be able to begin harvesting from that plant. So really check out those seed packets. And this is just another example of one. So you can see it has that map too. They don't always have the map. Like this one, it just kind of has this little graph here. But a lot of them have that general information on it. So it's something important to check out on your seed packets. Now with these, this one right here, you can see that this one also indicates that it is a perennial. Now, does anybody know what that means? Type it in if you know what it means if a flower is a perennial flower. We'll see if anybody can tell me, because this is very important to know when you're planting plants. So since there's a little bit of a delay, I'll kind of wait a little bit. And we'll look at this seed pack. You'll notice that this one does not say perennial. And I'm going to see if somebody can guess it. This one also does not say anything about being a perennial. Okay. I haven't seen anybody guess yet. And I think the video's kind of caught up, so I'm going to tell you. A perennial means that it comes back the next year. So it's a plant that keeps coming back. Now, if it's one that doesn't continuously come back, it's going to be an annual. So most of the time when you're filling pots with flowers, you're using an annual plant. If you're putting it in the ground, in the landscaping, usually you're going to plant perennials because you don't want to have to go back and do that every year. So this is a plant that continuously grows each year as long as you're keeping it nice and healthy. So perennials and annuals, something else important to remember, because you really don't want to plant perennials in a container because then it might not survive, because sometimes if you leave it in that container, it gets too cold because the plant is exposed a little bit more. There's a thinner layer between the soil and the outside. So I wouldn't recommend planting perennials in your containers, just because, unless you're going to bring it like in your garage or something and keep it there in the wintertime, it'd probably do okay. But if you're just going to leave it out there all the time, I really wouldn't recommend it. I would do annuals in that. Okay. So lots of information there. And I'm going to show you a few examples of some annuals. So these are common ones that you're going to see. So annuals would be like your pansies and patience, begonias, geraniums, petunias, your sweet potato vine. If you actually keep the potato part of it, you can replant it next year. It will sprout. And then some of your perennials that come back each year, your lilies, irises, hostas, coneflowers, those types of plants are going to come back each year. So these are the types of plants that I usually do on my landscaping, just because I don't want to have to replant things every year. In the spring, things start popping up and it's pretty low maintenance, which I love. Right? And when it comes time to get your plants, there are lots of places you can go to find your plants. You can go to a lot of those hardware stores. They usually have a nursery area. You can actually go to an actual greenhouse where they have usually more of a selection, and they're really helpful there too. Like, they know their stuff. And if you say, I have this kind of area, what can I plant there? They're usually really good about being able to help you and giving you some advice and tips on what to actually plant. So don't be afraid to ask questions when you're picking out your plants. Just find somebody, ask the questions that you need to know to make sure you're grabbing the right plants. Okay? And you don't always have to go to a store to get your plants. You can actually kind of recycle plants that you might already have. So if you have those perennials, certain ones, you can actually separate the bulbs and then plant new ones somewhere else. So if you have things like lilies or hostas, you can actually dig up part of it and then transplant it somewhere else. Or with houseplants, a lot of the houseplants, you're able to cultivate those. So you can take cuttings. So I have my lovely little guy here with the really long vines. I'm going to actually show you how you can do a cutting to make more of these. So a lot of the plants, you can do that. And then I also have my aloe plants. Look how many babies this thing has had. Look at all those cute aloe babies. So I'm going to show you how we can separate those aloe babies and then replant them. So that could even be part of your garden. If you have other houseplants, you can take part of them and make a new one. Or you can just gift them to somebody else. I also have this guy here. This one I'm not going to do anything with because I'm afraid I'm going to kill it again. Because I almost killed it once. This plant came back from the dead. Like, leaves were crispy, it was dry. I just decided throw some water and maybe it'll come back to life. well, it really didn't come up, but then it started sprouting new stuff. So this is kind of like my zombie plant. So I don't want to do anything that might harm it. So I'm just going to leave this guy alone because he's a little touchy. Not my favorite plant because he's also very demanding because he always wants water. The other two, I can go almost 2 weeks without watering, which I love. Those are my kind of plants that are in the house. Typically they're in my office, but now that we're not working in our offices, they get to come home with me. I think they enjoy the office more because they definitely have more sunlight there. But they're still thriving. So it's good. I haven't killed my plants. So we'll do that here in just a little while, but I want to go ahead and start our seed experiment. So the seeds that I go for are bean seeds. So these seeds here that I used, just to kind of help kickstart things, I did soak these overnight. So if you're able to do that, do it. If not, don't worry about it. This experiment will still work even if you did not soak the bean seeds. But if you're doing this at a different time and not now, I encourage that you do it. Now you can use other types of seeds too. It's just that bean seeds germinate super fast. So 6 to 8 days, these guys start to germinate. So by next week when we see each other again, you'll actually see them sprouting and seeds forming. So with this, we're gonna need some potting mix, our seeds, 3 Ziploc bags, a marker, I just grabbed a Sharpie here, paper towel, and we really only probably need like 1 bit of paper towel. And then I'm going to use a spray bottle to add my water. If you don't have a spray bottle, don't worry about it. You can just use like a small cup or just pour it in carefully. Just try not to add too much water to the soil. So this is a pretty simple experiment. We're going to take 1 Ziploc bag. We're going to take our paper towel and put it inside the paper bag. I mean the plastic bag. It's not paper. And then we're going to spray it with water. Or if you just want to take your paper towel to the sink and you can just put some water over it and kind of wring it out a little bit. But we just want to make sure that that paper towel is nice and wet. There we go. It looks pretty wet here. I'm going to adjust this so you can actually see what I'm doing. Sorry about that. Okay. So it's nice and wet in there. So that's number 1. Number 2, before it gets wet, we are going to label it. That way the marker doesn't bleed. So this one, I am just going to put a W on it. And then the other one, I'm going to put an NW. And I'll tell you what that means in just a second. Okay, and then we're going to add some soil to it. I'm going to open it up, and I'm just going to put 1, 2, that should be plenty. So 2 handfuls of soil. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other. And I just realized I had something to put on my table so I wouldn't make a big mess. I didn't put it down. I guess I got a mess to clean up now. Alright, so 2 scoops. There we go. Okay. So the one that we labeled with W, we're going to add some water to it. So again, you can pour water in, or like what I'm doing, I'm just using the spray bottle. I think I have open too much. There we go. That's better. And this is going to kind of create a little greenhouse in here for our bean seed. Okay. Just kind of mix it in to make sure all that soil is wet and not just the top. You just don't want to have so much water that it's going to collect at the bottom, because then that can cause like mold to grow. And we're not growing mold, we're growing seeds. Okay, so we have these. This one, the one that I put in W, means no water. So we are not going to put any water into this one. So we have our 3 different packs. Next, we're going to add our seeds. So with this one, I'm kind of put the paper towel there. I'm going to add 3, actually I'm going to add 4. I have enough to add 4 seeds. You guys can add however many you want. Okay, so just add those seeds to the bag and then seal it up. You don't have to like press all the air out. You can leave the air in there. That's perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that the seeds are on or touching that paper towel. And that's going to help keep those seeds nice and wet. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other one. So I'm going to take 4 seeds. And I'm actually going to push them down into the soil a little bit. We don't want to go very deep. Basically enough to kind of cover the seed. So I'm going to put them all in here. There we go. Kind of cover them with the soil. Okay. So we have that one. And then our last one is the one that we did not add water to. I'm going to add 4 seeds to that and do the same thing. I'm going to kind of cover them up just a little bit with the soil. Okay, and there we go. So that's it. We are done with that. The only other thing that you have to do is place them by a window that gets enough light, gets quite a bit of light, so it has light through it most of the day. You can either set it on the window ledge, or you can take some tape and tape it onto the actual window. So whatever works best for you. They shouldn't be very heavy, so you should be able to just tape them right up to your window. And you're gonna let them sit there. If you're taping it, make sure you don't tape the top, because every probably 3 days, you're going to open up the one with the W for water, and the one that has the paper towel, you're gonna open it up and you're gonna add a little bit of water to it. Again, don't overdo the watering because we don't want to drown the seeds, and we also don't want mold to form. So you can spray it a few times or just pour a little bit of water on it. Try not to move the soil a lot and mix the beans up. But you're gonna let that set for a while, because if you see the packet, it tells you that in 6 to 8 days, it's gonna start to germinate or sprout. So I would check back on it every few days and just see if you're starting to see that bean seed open up, and to see if there's any roots forming. So, excuse me, we're gonna keep an eye on this, and then next week when we meet again, I'm gonna show you the results of mine, but hopefully you can get yours started as well, so we can see how yours are doing. And then we'll kind of see if there's any difference between the different bags. So the one that is paper towel, the one that has water that we are going to give it every 3 days or so, and then the one with NW, do not add any water to this. So you just leave it and don't touch it. And we're gonna let this go for the next couple of weeks. So we'll check in next week and then the following week and see what kind of changes there are. Okay, so really quick, I'm gonna just show you how to do a cutting on my vine here. So with this type of plants, you don't want to dig down into the plants and uproot it, because uprooting can cause a lot of damage to the plant. It's basically creating an open wound on the plant. And we don't want to do that, especially in the soil, because it's more likely to have some bad stuff happen to it. So we're going to leave that alone. Okay, so I'm actually going to use scissors because I didn't have a razor blade. And it's probably safer for you guys, if you're going to do it, to use scissors as well. But you're going to just go up to the little plant, and with this plant, we want to have some leaves with our clippings. Usually you want to have at least 6 leaves to help get it going. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. So I'm actually going to cut right in that area. It's actually a perfect spot. You'll see, I'm going to move the camera so you can actually see it. There's a little nub. Oops. There we go. So that little brown nub here, we want to have that, okay? So we need to cut above the nub. So I'm just gonna cut right here. And I have my little clipping. And you can do a few of these. Usually you wanna have more than one in a pot, or it's not gonna be very full. So I would do probably maybe like 3 if you're gonna do a pot this size. But once you cut it, you're going to just leave it in water. And you're going to leave it in water for about a month. And you're going to start to see the roots grow. Once you have some nice roots there, then you're going to plant it in the soil. Make sure you get it the right size pot. This one would be a great starter size pot. You don't want to get something super small because then right away you're going to have to shift to a different size pot. So give it plenty of room. And like I said, add more than one or it's going to be pretty lonely in there. So I would do a few different clippings from this. Okay. So a great way to start your garden without actually having to go out and buy something. We are a little short on time, so I don't think I'm going to do the aloe today. I will do that next week. So maybe we'll start off by separating some of those cute little baby aloe plants, and we'll plant that. And you can see how they happen. So that is it for this week. So make sure that you join me next week, and we will work on the rest of our badge. So the next one will be on May 20th. So that's next Wednesday at 3 p.m. right here on the Girl Scouts of Central Illinois Facebook page. So that'll be part 2. And for next week, there are some supplies that you'll need. You'll need paper, pencil, something to color with. It can be colored pencils would probably be really good for this one. Coloring crayons, markers, whatever you have available. And then the My Garden Elements worksheet. And you can find that on our website. And I'll probably actually add the link to this video after I post it onto our page. Okay. And this is that little worksheet that you're going to do. So we're going to start planning out our garden that we're going to plant to earn this badge. So this is the worksheet that you want to have printed out. If you want to, you can work ahead and start working on this, especially on the part of what do you have in your garden. So you can take stock of what you guys actually have in your garden now, and then we'll talk about what we want to add to it later. Right? And if you are participating in any of these programs, we love to see what you're doing. So if you want to share any of the things you're doing, so if you want to share your seed experiment, you can do that by hashtagging GSCI Shines On. You can also send us a message with pictures, or you can write about what you've done too. That's amazing too. We love hearing from you guys. Some of us, we don't get out much, so we like hearing from people. So help us out a little bit. We love seeing what you guys are doing at home. We also have a lot of other programs too that you can participate in. We have other events, some Facebook Live events. We have our 20-minute try-its that are on Thursdays. We have a pop-up shop coming up on Thursday. So if you need a little retail therapy and you need to buy some Girl Scout gear, check this out at 6:30 on Thursday. They're going to have some clearance items. So not only are you shopping, but you're going to save some money, which is a bonus. And then on Fridays, we have live from camp. And they usually have lots of fun activities that they do. So definitely tune in Fridays at 12 p.m. And then another reminder, it's early registration time. So if you have not renewed your Girl Scout membership, now's the time to do it, because this is the time where you guys get the perks. So if you do it before the deadline, there's a really adorable shirt that you get. It is yellow, and then it says proud to, and then there's a picture of a bee, a Girl Scout. So super cute. I'm actually modeling last year's early registration shirt. Isn't it adorable? So make sure you early register so you qualify for the shirt, the patch, and then you can also register for a free event too. So get those early registrations done. If you need help, just contact one of us. We'll be happy to help you out. And then one more thing, because I almost forgot it. I need help deciding what I'm going to put in my planters on my porch. I struggle with this almost every year. What do I want to plant? So I'm going to have you guys help me. I'm going to be adding a survey up above the video, and I want you guys to click on that link and vote on the different plants that you want me to plant in my planters. So you're going to pick the thrillers, so those that kind of stand out and are tall. those fillers that are in the middle that add some more color, and then our spillers that cascade wonderfully over the edge of the planter. You'll also help me vote on the color scheme or theme of it. So I came up with a few different ideas of things that I think I would like. So help me decide. So vote now through next week, and then probably Monday I will tally up those votes, go and buy the plants, and then we will actually plant them on Wednesday. So you'll actually get to see what you helped vote on. So I'm sure you guys are gonna come up with something amazing. I look forward to it. So I will see you guys next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Make sure that you get those supplies ready so that you're ready for next week. And if you can't make it next week, you'll be able to watch the video afterwards. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you Wednesday.